Good afternoon, and welcome back to another edition of NCIA's Industry Essentials Educational Webinars. I'm Brian Gilbert, and I'm thrilled to kick off another episode of NCIA's Service Solutions series today, presented by Netwatch North America. For those tuning in for the first time, NCIA's Service Solutions is our sponsored content webinar program, which allows business owners the opportunity to learn more about premier products, services, and industry solutions directly from our network of established suppliers, providers, and thought leaders. As we all know too well, as a high-risk industry without access to traditional banking services, cannabis businesses have an even greater need for video surveillance systems that can guarantee the security of their premises due to the large amounts of currency and cannabis products stored on site. While regulations require facilities be equipped with a functioning video surveillance system, regulations can vary from state to state and be less restrictive about how these systems are monitored. In today's program, the experts from Netwatch North America and Sapphire Risk Advisory Group are here to clear up the confusion about the most common methods utilized to provide you and your team with the best solution for your specific type of business. You'll leave today's session with a roadmap for next steps to take to evaluate the methods currently in place, how best to conduct an assessment, and implement new systems to ensure the security of your business and the safety of your employees. But don't forget, this is an interactive educational experience, so don't hesitate to post those questions throughout the session. And as I mentioned, our panel will address during a dedicated Q&A period before we close it out. All right, enough with the intro. To kick things off, I'd like to welcome our co-panelists for today's program, Justin Wilmus, President of Netwatch Systems, or Netwatch North America, excuse me, and Haley Glover, Senior Security Consultant at Sapphire Risk Advisory Group, to the virtual stage. Welcome to NCIA's Industry Essentials. Great to have you all here today. I'm going to stop my screen share now. And I think to kick things off, Justin's going to take over the screen share with his presentation slide deck and let you all know a little bit more about Netwatch and Sapphire Risk Advisory's place within the cannabis industry and the expertise that Justin and Haley are going to be bringing to today's conversation. And then he's going to dive right into the program from there. So without further ado, Justin, you can take it away right from here.
Brian, thank you so much. Just confirm that this screen share is working for us. But Netwatch is glad to be here. We are a leader and pioneer in the proactive video monitoring experience, and are thrilled to be working with Sapphire Risk as a close partner on many projects. So I'll introduce Haley and let her say hi to the group, and we're very excited to be here today.
Yeah, nice to be here. So Sapphire Risk Advisory Group, we are a nationwide cannabis security consulting firm. We assist a lot of clients through the application process. We assist when they're building out, and even after they've been open, we'll perform risk assessments to make sure that they do remain compliant and safe, and hopefully never have any events happen at their cannabis facility.
Awesome. So today we're going to take you through a couple of points throughout the presentation. We'll start with just different types of video monitoring, and then how they are monitored and detect unauthorized activity. What happens when there's an alarm, and how do you respond and dispatch? Haley will take us through the regulations and the reasons that these video surveillance systems are there for compliance regulations. And then, as Brian said, we'll wrap up with kind of a roadmap and some next steps and some events that you'll be able to see us and network with us at in person here. As Brian mentioned, we are going to have an interactive poll, and the first question is right now. So we love to have your feedback, and just in terms of what best describes your role in the cannabis industry today. So are you a cannabis license holder or decision maker with 1 to 3 locations? Again, a cannabis license holder or decision maker with 4 or more locations? An ancillary cannabis business or service provider looking to obtain a cannabis business license in the next year or two? Or something else, just joining to learn about video surveillance and how monitoring can work for you. So we'll give it a second, let you all select your answers, and then we'll come back with the results. And the results are in. So, wow, 77% of the audience are ancillary cannabis business or a service provider. Another 8% are looking to get their license in the next year or two. And then another 15% are other. So, well, thank you very much for your participation, and we hope that you find this information useful. Oh, sorry. All right, so there's really kind of three different types of video monitoring or monitoring in general that we're going to talk about today in the presentation. So, on-site monitoring, typically done through on-site employees, security, staff, or even hired guarding services that will monitor the video surveillance systems that you have in place, protecting either your cultivation, manufacturing, or dispensary facilities. Or an outsourced third-party remote surveillance type company that will interact with your alarm system, also work with your video system to receive alerts and then verify those alerts and then dispatch. And then the third type, which is very close to home for us, is proactive video monitoring, where we take a traditional video system, instead of making it a reactive type of solution, and make it something that we can deter and de-escalate and prevent the incidents from happening before they start. And that's really the concept behind proactive video monitoring. And so we're going to dive into these deeper as we go throughout the presentation today. So at the next couple of slides, we'll be talking about just the monitoring and detection.
Yeah, so, a lot of states do have requirements on having a physical guard at the actual facility. And something that we see with the in-person intervention is armed versus unarmed guards. An unarmed guard really should only intervene if it's something that is a safe situation. If there is somebody that has weapons or they are being violent, it's really best to dispatch police. The physical monitoring, guards physically have to really go and check and see if there is an event occurring. So they might see on the cameras that there's a car that drives up to a back of a facility. It'll take them a second to get over there, and then they have to evaluate that situation. A lot of guard companies, they do provide post orders, which explains to the guards what they should be doing, what their role is, and how they should be responding to these events. Something that we try to offer with our clients is customizing those post orders for your particular facility. Sometimes you want them to have access to the inside, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you only want them to be at a gate that's going into a cultivation facility, or not having access to where any of the cannabis or cash is being stored. And it can also get a little bit expensive. Armed versus unarmed, that's going to be a cost difference. But then also, is it 24/7, or is it just going to be for the overnight shift, or is it only when you have customers that are coming to your dispensary? So there's a few different variables there.
Yeah, and then there are different types of video monitoring. And I know from my experience and working closely with Haley and other cannabis clients that, and Brian noted earlier, that there are compliance regulations about having, video monitored. Obviously, you'll have intrusion alarms and things of that nature that are monitored, but then tying in the video to better support that for a number of different reasons. And, traditional third-party video monitoring can, in some cases, be more effective than a guard. Obviously, you'll have more cameras than a single guard or multiple guards. So, for every camera that's out there, you're that many times more effective than just a single human body. And then they're trained, in the video monitoring space and how to interact with alarms. And so, that can really be helpful because, it's not as intuitive sometimes to be able to sit behind a screen and diagnose alarm and then know exactly what to do. Like Haley was talking about with post orders, and, people can be confused, especially if they're not from, the video industry. But one of the challenges with traditional video monitoring is that it's very reactive in terms of, an alarm will come in and then you'll go to look at the video just to verify whether or not that's a real alarm. And in the alarm industry, there's, lots of things that have happened around false alarms and penalties for having false alarms. So, which is why the adoption of video monitoring has taken off and come into this space and other security spaces. But at the same time, it's still very reactive because you're getting an alarm, seeing that there's a bad guy doing bad things, and then dispatching, whether it's local security on site or even law enforcement to come and handle that situation. And in a lot of cases, this can be expensive and it may be just as much money as traditional on-site, guards or staff doing the monitoring, and maybe not nearly as effective. Then there's intelligent video monitoring, or what we like to call proactive video monitoring, that basically takes the video system and makes it the alarm system. So not only is it watching and recording, but it's using analytics and artificial intelligence to detect unwanted persons or vehicles that are coming on site at times that you don't want them there. And then raising that alarm and putting it in front of what we call intervention specialists, who are highly trained to know what to do when that alarm comes in, and then step in and intervene. Beyond just being the video alarm system, there's audio that's typically installed at the site, and that intervention specialist acts on that alarm and intervenes to deter and de-escalate that event from continuing any further. And that becomes really effective, because now the person who is potentially going to do something knows that there's someone there, because that person is talking down, potentially yelling at them, describing them, and maybe some sort of fashion of the clothes that they're wearing, or vehicle that they're driving, or where they're standing. And it can become really effective for deterrence. And then at the same time, it can become very cost effective in terms of, compared to traditional security guards that are there at that post. So those are really the three types. We're going to kind of dig into some more details around the dispatches and alarm types and rates, and how everything can become, tied together, and what advantages are to each of these here in the next few slides. But here we have another polling question. So thanks again for your previous participation. For this question, for those who are in the audience, what type of monitoring method or combination of monitoring methods does your cannabis business use today? So are you using proactive video monitoring? Are you using proactive video monitoring and security guards? Are you using just traditional video surveillance systems that are very reactive only, or video surveillance systems with security guards? Or maybe you don't have one yet, or don't have a type of monitoring solutions. So we're very interested, and I think the results are being tallied up as we speak, and they're in. All right, so out of the presentation, 73% of the audience said it's not applicable. They're not even using, perhaps not even using video surveillance or video monitoring. 18%, they're using video surveillance and traditional security guards. And then there's 9% who are actually using proactive video monitoring. So wow, that's very exciting. Again, appreciate and thank you all for your feedback. All right, now we're going to talk about alarm response and dispatch, and I'll turn it over to Haley here.
Yeah, so the alarm verification, whether it's you're just getting an alarm system that's going off, or you do have analytics that are on your video cameras and you do get an alert, one of the biggest things to keep in mind is that false alarms can be a very bad situation for your response. I know that not only in cannabis, but really any other industry, or even for your home, if you have too many false alarms, police may stop responding, or they might start charging you for those false alarms that are happening. And so having that verification is crucial to getting that correct response that you really need for your business. And something that we try to recommend to clients is you can try to monitor these cameras on your own, but the biggest issue is everyone sleeps. Some people go on vacation. I mean, it can be a difficult thing to monitor 24/7, especially when you just have your own life going on. And even if you have other managers that are responsible for being able to review those alarms, that can be a difference of having somebody in and out of your business. Most burglaries, they occur in 1 to 2 minutes. So that 1 to 2 minutes that you're going through and getting these alerts and trying to figure out who can really verify that alarm, that could have been all it took for your business to be broken into.
Yeah, totally. Look, this extends, beyond just the cannabis industry, just in general, and every jurisdiction is different about, response levels, types of alarms and verifications, and whether they even respond in general to them. And then there's other challenges just in today's world about, the police and law enforcement having enough resources to even respond to verified alarms. So, that's part of the reason why these regulations are there. And yeah, it makes it very challenging. So let's talk about, the different types of monitoring that we introduced here, and then, the verification process, the response, and then what happens from a dispatch level. So we'll start with the traditional on-site security guards. And so, you may have an employee or a guard or an armed guard, as Haley mentioned, that's there to go and, respond to the event, the threat that's actually happening, on site. They'll may have their protocols may be that they have to call different people or try to, contain or de-risk, that event from happening, but sometimes they can't. And so, and that puts them in a dangerous position, and, there's risk associated with that. And so they'll have to reach out to, for additional support through law enforcement, in order to get there to help them. But that law enforcement, response may be delayed. And there's that critical timing, as Haley was talking about, that becomes a challenge. Then remotely, when you have third-party remote monitoring, an alarm will come in from a sensor, typically, traditionally through like the intrusion alarm system, that'll go to a central station. The alarm operator will pick that up and then open up the video system to verify that, yes, there is some sort of incident or event in progress, and that dispatch is required. And so they'll call out to either the local security guard, law enforcement, obviously notify key stakeholders, and that becomes that verified alarm. And then they just have to sit back and wait for the dispatch to come out and start to handle that event, if that even happens, if the dispatch can actually be there. Then there's proactive video monitoring that will use, again, the video system as the alarm system, and use analytics inside of the cameras to alert intervention specialists in a central station who are highly trained to take that alert, look at that live video, activate the live audio, and intervene with the perpetrator who's on site, and start talking down to them, letting them know that they're on live and recorded video, and that they need to leave. Otherwise, police or security will be dispatched or are already on their way to come and handle that event. And I got to tell you, 9 times out of 10, it's really effective, especially when you're calling the person out by the type of clothing or the tools or things that they're carrying, the vehicle that they're standing next to, all of those different types of scenarios or live attributes that they may have about themselves. And then look, some bad guys really don't care that you're talking to them, but most of them do, because they're like, where is that person? How do they see me? How do they know what I'm wearing? But in the event that they don't, then at that stage, you can also dispatch the law enforcement or work with the local security staff that's on site. And so that really becomes an effective way to have verified alarms and really de-escalate and help incidents from escalating or occurring even further.
I'll say that I've had some pretty interesting experiences with guards. I did have one where the guards, we could see them on camera. They just kind of walked away. There were 2. And hours went by, and these burglars came in. They had plenty of time to go back to their cars, get more tools, come back. I mean, they were on site for 30, 35 minutes, and there was no response. So just relying on that one method typically isn't going to be the best option. And kind of like you were saying with that third-party remote monitoring, alarm systems, they have to be monitored. But how are you responding to that? And again, kind of going back to those police resources, is if they see one door contact that's been triggered, they might respond to it. but they want that confirmation that they're seeing a series of alarms that are going off. And if you can have somebody who's proactively looking at that video footage, confirming that there is somebody on site, that's how they can get that dispatch there quicker. And a lot of police departments typically respond a little bit better to that because they do have the confirmation of an actual alarm. And it's not, okay, well, we have to send 2 police officers out to the site and maybe there's something actually going on when really there could have been a thunderstorm, or it could have just been a sensor that was falsing. So having that verification that something actually is an event, you're more likely to have that police response. So compliance.
So Haley, I think this is really
yeah.
like, where your expertise comes in. I mean, every jurisdiction in, different cities and different counties, different states, it's so challenging for, I think, license holders or operators to even know what they have to do to comply, one, to either get their license or maintain their license, because I know it's regulated. There's lots of inspections, surprise and scheduled, and all kinds of things that go along with it. So really excited to have your expertise here to help talk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say that we spend a lot of time at Sapphire reading these really long requirements for every state. And then, California, for example, it's by city, by county. So it's a lot to keep up with, but, it's something that you have to follow in order to be compliant in wherever your dispensary or cultivation facility is. I know that in California, for example, Sacramento Police Department sent out a requirement that you had to have your video footage monitored on the exterior of your building. And obviously it was, again, back to those resources. So that was not something for just new business owners, it was for the existing. So how do you keep track of that? And how are you ensuring that you are compliant? Massachusetts, they are very strict. Very, very strict about the camera coverage. I mean, they want to see head to toe your full movement throughout that facility. So it's full coverage, ensuring that you can view and confirm if there's somebody on site that's not supposed to be. So again, following with all those regulations, the compliance piece of it is something that could make or break you. And I will say that there are certain locations that will remove your license, prevent you from getting another license. They might fine you. So those are all things to take in consideration. The installation piece of it is one of my favorites. So you can install the best camera system, but how are you utilizing it? Who actually installed it? And I will say that if you have a general contractor, or if you have maybe, somebody that you knew from growing up, or you've got your brother-in-law and they're coming to install all these systems, that's great and everything, but you're not really going to have a professional company who will come and monitor somebody else's system when they can't verify that this was done correctly and that this is being utilized for what those cameras are actually meant for. So a lot of how you're having this installed, knowing that what you have and being able to use it. The actual maintenance piece of it is something that needs to be reviewed frequently. I mean, I'll say that in other industries, they do have requirements that you have to have a professional company come out, clean the cameras, test the cameras, ensure that you're having enough video footage. So it's just a lot of continuing to remain compliant and ensuring that you are meeting those regulations that you're required to meet. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, loitering, what about when people are just wanting to hang out, either intentionally or because they're looking for somewhere to maybe, have a dry space to now have an overnight sleep or something? I find that quite a bit in a lot of different retail environments today, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll say that, in Las Vegas, for example, if you go out to Planet 13, they will escort you away from the front of the dispensary. They don't want you to be hanging out in front, even if you're waiting for a driver to come pick you up. So they really want to make sure that you're not hanging out close to the building, especially not using cannabis out in public in front of their business. That makes them look bad. And so obviously getting everyone off site, but there are some requirements in different states of how to prevent loitering. I'll say that a lot of our clients, I recommend use what you have. There are analytics that you can have on your cameras. we recommend geofencing to have that virtual barrier of if somebody crosses that after a certain time, that you are sent an alarm. But again, it's how are you responding to those kinds of things? Because it's not exactly going to be a 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. type of event. Exactly. It's going to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Sorry about the jumping there, but yeah, you're right. And then with each type of, monitoring that you have, the response can be different and can create different types of risk for, the organization or the people, when trying to prevent or deter the loitering. With a person like an on-site, security guard or even staff that has to physically go and confront that person and ask them and tell them that they're not allowed to be there and try to escort them off property, and that can create risk in a potential unwanted situation for abuse and violence, just because they may not be thrilled to be asked to leave or forced to leave off of the property. Same with the third-party video monitoring. Now it may take a little bit because they're getting an alarm from analytics, that's saying there is someone, loitering here. The central station sees that and then has to, again, dispatch, whether, again, it's the local security staff, security guard, or even law enforcement. And then once those responders get there, they're obviously subject to the verbal and physical abuse. But with proactive video monitoring, there's an alternative. And that is, as I said before, using the audio that's connected to the system and allowing that central station and that intervention specialist to receive the alert that a person is or an object is loitering in an area, because it might be a vehicle out in a parking lot after hours, and then coming on live and describing attributes about the person or vehicle that's loitering and letting them know that they need to leave right then and there because they're not allowed to be there. The facility is closed or loitering is not allowed. And that really completely removes the risk because there's no one there for that person to abuse physically or abusively. And again, it's really effective when someone is talking down to them live and very loudly, and when they typically know they're not supposed to be there. And so, all in all, that really helps kind of reduce the risk around that. And then, making sure it keeps the organization in compliance by not having, people where they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, and I'll say that, whenever there is an event that occurs, you must report it. And that's something that varies from one state to another of what they really want to see for those reports. But if there is an event that occurs, one, insurance. It's the same thing of if you get into a car accident, you have to contact your insurance company, but they want to know what happened. In New Jersey, for example, if your system has any sort of malfunction, or if you do have a robbery or anything like that, they want to know what happened and what you did on your end as the business owner, and what you'll be doing in the future to prevent it. They want to know what other security measures you'll be taking. So, really having any type of event that occurs, they want to know what the police report looks like, what the response time looked like. They want to know who was contacted, what they did. So it, again, kind of going back to if you're monitoring your own video, it's, well, we didn't dispatch. Well, why not? Well, it was 3 o'clock in the morning and I was half asleep and I didn't really look at the video. I mean, it does happen. And so really just ensuring that you have these records of everything. So if they ask for it, because, if you're audited at any point in time, you have to be able to have those records and have video footage to really show how the entire event occurred.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, there's different types of reporting that comes from, each of the different types of scenarios. And, well, I think you said, like it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I was half asleep, there's kind of the human element. And, if it's a physical escalation, do they capture everything? And, you noted that there's so many pieces of what needs to be recorded for compliance, and having each of the different types of scenarios there to do that can be a challenge, I imagine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and it's again, it's what is your business operation look like? I mean, if you have a security director, they can't really be in charge of viewing that footage all the time. It just becomes too much. And especially if you have more than one location and you only have one security director that's managing those locations, it's a lot of work to keep up with it.
Yeah. And then, so here's another interesting thought about reporting. So, if you're utilizing a system like proactive video monitoring that is, effective at deterring and de-escalating the incident from happening, there might be a question as to, well, how does the business even know that something happened if it was successfully deterred and de-escalated without a need for a human intervention? And so utilizing a solution like this, where there's an automated report that is provided to the business and the operator, when they come in, in the morning, or when they wake up and they see that there was actually an event that happened the night before. It didn't turn into anything, but now they have complete record of that, as it's in their inbox, detailed with the time of the event, what happened, whether there was any sort of voice down or escalation. Obviously, if there was escalation and call outs, they'd be aware of that. And then obviously having snapshots and video footage available to support that. But again, always assuring that they're in 100% compliance with reporting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Coming in and just having that ready for you, and so you can put it in the file, and if you're ever asked about it, that's something you can share.
Yeah, totally. All right, and here's another one of our exciting questions. So how does your cannabis business keep track of market changes and regulation updates? Now, this is really good because there are lots of regulation updates that happen all the time. Things are constantly changing, right? The one constant in life is change. So how do you keep up with all of that? And a couple of the options are retained consultants like Sapphire Risk, responsibility of the manager on staff. Is it third-party software or service? Or maybe you don't have a system for checking and monitoring these changes, or maybe you just don't know. So we'd love to hear your feedback here. And I think the results are being tallied up as we speak. And the results are in. And so 22% of the audience said that they have retained consultants, which is great, fantastic. No one better than the experts to help you there. 11% said that they have no set system for checking or maintaining, or looking for updates. And then 67% of the audience said they don't know. So that's very interesting because, one of the things that's very valuable is having experts to help guide you along the way to make sure that you're obviously able to stay in compliance. And what's the right solution for your business? This picture cracks me up. I've been in the video surveillance industry and the security industry for a long time, and I see this quite frequently. And a lot of people, you can see this out on social media, where you see all types of pictures of facilities with cameras, whether they're mounted good and bad. And I mean, look at this one. There's a lot of cameras there.
Somebody made some good money here.
yeah, for sure. That's funny. So, let's just kind of like review, in terms of the summary of the types of methods that are out there. Again, there's, in this conversation, I hope we didn't project a bad light on the guards, because that there isn't. Like, the human element is so important. I'm a big believer of that, and you need them. But there's also challenges with it. And so, that creates, is it their physical response, potentially lack of training? It can be very costly. And are they able to maintain and do all the things that are needed for the compliance regulations or mechanisms that are needed for operation? There's the traditional video monitoring with other systems, which are important, and you'll always need to have an alarm system and cameras, like you saw on the previous slide. And it's important to have companies like this to verify alarms, because we have to support law enforcement today. They're inundated with so many things, so it's very important to have verified alarms, so that when they are dispatching to law enforcement, they know what they're getting into and they know that they're responding to something that they really should be responding to, if they even can. But, does that really provide a full sense of security and solution? Does it help with, managing and maintaining compliance mechanisms? And does it deliver all the reporting pieces that you need? Maybe. And then, when you look at technology and how it's advancing, and there are so many cool things out there, but, when you can really bolster your security program and use tools to enhance your security and still have the ability to work with law enforcement and guards by utilizing analytics to detect and deter, obviously helping keeping you in compliance. And then, what's really important for any business owner is operational efficiency and helping drive down costs, because there's a cost implication to each type of solution that you may choose. Obviously, proactive video monitoring is close to home for me. And so just to talk about some of our experience and what we see when this type of solution is used, because we've been doing this for 20 years, beyond just here in the US. And so basically, it's 98% effective from a dispatch perspective, because when you're voicing down and talking to someone, they know that you're there. They don't know where you are. They're not sure if you're in the building, but they hear you loud and clear, and that's usually a good enough deterrent. But sometimes it doesn't, and that's why we're there to dispatch as well and have that verified alarm. The other piece of it is, compared to some traditional, video monitoring solutions, when there is an alarm, whether it's verified or, when it is verified, they'll still reach out to, the business owner. And again, as Haley mentioned earlier, this can be happening at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you could be inundated. Security managers, owners, could be inundated with these phone calls, in the middle of the night. And so by utilizing a solution like this to reduce the number of phone calls to the owner, operator, security, law enforcement, security staff is super important. And proactive video monitoring can do that, by 96%. People often ask, like, how long does it take? Like, for you guys to intervene, and what is your SLA? What do you do? And our SLA is to intervene within 60 seconds. And that's to receive the alarm, verify the alarm, voice down, and deter and de-escalate that event. So it's as close to, instantaneous as you can be. A lot of times it's a lot less than that 60 seconds, just because it comes in really fast, but that's our SLA. And to date, we have prevented, it's really hard to tally this, but we've been doing this for a long time, and over hundreds of thousands of crimes have been prevented, utilizing a solution like this. And there's more to it than just the service. Along with our service comes a really powerful platform. In today's world, we all live, based off of our mobile devices and our PCs, and you need to have functionality available to you at your fingertips, be able to see your cameras. Like, there's a lot of things that happen where in the middle of the night, you might have to have someone come on site as a visitor, and maybe you don't want that person yelled at or even dispatched on. So the ability to have functions like that, arming and disarming, who do they contact? You probably have times where there's turnover and you need to change the manager, or who do we call, and how you manage your system. So being able to do all that through a purpose-built platform. And that's the one thing that we've done compared to traditional third-party video monitorings, which are just using off-the-shelf types of integrated solutions, alarm systems, integration platforms, video systems, where this is purpose-built to be everything from the user experience to the AI and machine learning in the middle to help reduce the false alarms, and then the ability to have a queuing system and be able to manage that in a central station. So all of that is included in the platform and provided with a service like this. At this point, we could talk about next steps. We'd love to engage with you. Haley, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, sure. So depending on where you're at, if you are in the process of wanting to apply or applying, is really understanding what you would like to see implemented in your business. And if you've already been open, it's evaluating what you already have in place and seeing if it's something that's actually working for you in your business. And are you taking those steps to prevent an event from occurring? Second is talking to a security consultant. Get a risk assessment. I'll tell you, a lot of insurance companies love when we go out and do risk assessments because we're identifying where there might be any threats or vulnerabilities, just really identifying where you have that potential of any type of event occurring. And then implementing those improved security measures and your monitoring measures. Just, is it something that's working for your business? Is it something that you could improve on? And how can you go ahead and get that started so that you can hopefully remain in business and expand at some point?
Awesome. Yeah. Look, we also want to provide our contact information. So, you know how to get a hold of us. We're happy to engage and meet with you. We have some upcoming events that we'll talk about. I think, Brian, we're probably back to turn it over to you at this point. There might be hopefully some Q&A that have come in from the audience. I know we'd love to answer some direct questions that people may have put into the chat and that may not have been covered, or maybe they just want some more information around from either Sapphire Group or Netwatch North America.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, yeah, I think that was a perfect transition into the audience engagement portion of the program. We have had a number of great questions come in alongside your all's presentation. So thanks for touching on a number of different elements, as I really think it piqued people's interest in different aspects of the program. So I think we're going to get it started off with a great question that came in about midway through the session. That question was, when should I reach out to a PVM company during this cannabis business planning process? And I believe that question was directed specifically towards Justin.
Yeah, no, hey, thank you very much. Look, as early as possible. So, and the reason I say that, and I've learned this from working with Haley and the Sapphire Group and other, business owners and that's why we asked the question in the very beginning. Where do you fit in? Are you applying for a license today? Are you looking to get a license in next year or two? Do you have a business today? As early as possible, just because, you're in a lot of cases, you're gonna have to provide a security plan before you can even apply, at the application process of getting your license. So you may not even be able to get a license to operate without a security plan. And knowing whether or not, video monitoring and the types of video monitoring or what the rules and regulations are and how a solution like this could help you is really important. And then also it's really important to help from a budgeting perspective, right? If you can use a solution that's going to save you operating costs, right? As a business owner, that's what everyone's faced with is how do I manage my cost? Especially when you're a startup and you're just getting started. So yeah, we would love to engage, and we do help a lot of folks in the very early stages.
Perfect. Yeah, get started early. I think that's good advice for everything across the board in life, especially in this industry, to say the least. We had another great question that came in about midway through the program as well from Greg Myers. And now that we know when we should be getting started in this process, I think Greg wanted to know a little bit more about what VMS systems that you currently integrate with. And I think that question was specifically towards Justin as well.
Yeah, no, hey, that is a great question. So the best part about Netwatch is that we don't have to directly integrate into any video systems, right? We are camera agnostic. There are some tools and bridges that allow us to utilize existing equipment that's on site already, existing VMSs that we may not integrate to. Now, we do integrate to a number of leading manufacturers out there, and that's a pretty extensive list that we can share with you, such as, Vigilon, Hanwha, Honeywell, list goes on and on and on, right? But again, it doesn't always have to be that there needs to be an integration because there are other ways to utilize the existing equipment on site at a very low cost without having to rip and replace or change anything.
Perfect. We love plug and play here. So I think we had one more question that came in the chat room. So thank you all for engaging inside of the chat room as well. That question came in. Hold on, let me try and find it from Joel Hohenberg about near the conclusion of the program. So he was specifically wondering, do insurance companies reward operators for proactive video monitoring? And if so, is activity reporting for proactive surveillance a regulatory requirement in Massachusetts or other jurisdictions specifically? I think, Haley, you touched on that Massachusetts had a pretty restrictive set of regulations. So if you could expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So they don't have that in Massachusetts where it's a requirement. I will say that insurance companies, like anything that you do beyond the bare minimum. I mean, again, you're being proactive about your security measures, and being able to implement something like proactive video monitoring is something, one, it's going to probably make your local police department pretty happy, reducing those false alarms a bit. But, I'd say that some insurance companies will provide something for that. I know that when I did the jewelry industry, they would. So I don't know if it applies for cannabis, but I would think so. Yes. And I would say outside of Massachusetts, kind of like I mentioned earlier, Sacramento, they do require that. I would imagine some of those, the cities that have lower police resources would probably start to implement that. So something to keep in mind.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for touching on that a little bit more. As we saw at the beginning of the presentation, there's definitely a pretty wide spread of people in different states here. So I know that the regulatory requirements could vary dramatically from each. So thanks for diving a little bit more deeply into that. We have one more question, well, a few more questions, but the next question we'll go to on the Q&A board came in at about the 20-minute mark, and I think it was directed towards Haley in particular. So that question was, how does working with a security company like Sapphire Risk Advisory Group help to save my company money? I know that you've touched on that a little bit in a few different responses, but if you wanted to dive a little bit more into the cost-saving benefits of engaging a security company like yourself, please do so.
Absolutely. So again, we start with a lot of our clients during the application phase. And something that we do is we have that communication of what security will be implemented. And kind of my role, even before helping them when they're building out, they've already got their license, is assisting with that budgeting of the security systems, understanding what's compliant, understanding what they want to implement that might be beyond the regulations, but understanding the costs that might be associated with it and weighing out the different options that they might have. So a guard company versus proactive video monitoring might be one of those. So as long as they can get that understood pretty early on in their stages, they're not going too cheap on the security, which obviously is one of the most important things. But I would say, yeah, it definitely saves money. We do a lot of RFPs for our clients that are in the build out phase, and seeing the price differences between what's being bid on that it's pretty significant.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want everybody's storefront to end up like that photo with some unnecessary cost there. So engage the experts early and get the advice that really you're going to need to provide the correct solution for your business. We got one more question that came in, specifically referencing back to the analytics collected by cameras and how sort of important and common those are across the industry. So we had, I think this is both to Justin and Haley, you might be able to provide some flavor on this, but how important and common are camera analytics across the industry as far as you all have seen?
Yeah, so being in the security space, just coming back from a major trade show in Atlanta just last week, Haley was there as well. Analytics and AI is the big talk today, and it's not new. I mean, analytics have been around for almost 20 years in the video surveillance system. So they're readily available. Most cameras and camera systems come with them today. And there's obviously some that perform better than others. And the reality behind it, though, is it's not always about how well the analytics performs. Is the application set up correctly? Is the camera in the right place? Is it at the right height? Is there enough light? Is it does it have enough pixels to detect at certain ranges? There's so many things that kind of go into it. that are really, really important, and why you should look towards a trusted and a knowledgeable provider to help you with that. And there's a lot of analytics out there today. People often ask about what people refer to as deep neural and network analytics, and can you detect different colors and things, and the answer is yeah. There's so many things out there that can be done with analytics. But the reality of when you're protecting a facility, and like we've spoken about today, it just goes a lot of times with a lot of things. It goes back to the basics. So utilizing a detection ring, so utilizing analytics to detect whether it's a person or a vehicle, like object classification. You don't want to be voicing down and yelling at a deer that's standing in the parking lot because your facility is, or your manufacturing facility is outdoors growth or whatever, right? So you really want to make sure that you're looking at, or that you're utilizing that to detect people and objects. And that's standard functionality today.
I absolutely agree. Your commercial grade cameras, they come with analytics for the most part, and that's something that it's there. Why would you not use the technology? And again, a lot of them are self-learning, and so they do know the difference between a deer and a human in a car. But implementing those using the technology that already exists for your surveillance system is, it's amazing. I love the technology.
And if your surveillance system doesn't have it, there are simple, easy bridge products that you can add very cost effectively to introduce the analytics and AI. And it's sometimes people get they hear analytics, wow, it sounds really awesome, but it sounds really expensive. And you'd really be shocked. Like I say, it's utilizing a system like this can be a lot more cost effective than you think, and actually help save you money.
Yeah, that's great. I can't listen to the radio without hearing an ad for an enterprise AI solution. So it's great to hear that this is available amongst the cannabis industry and at a cost-effective way that you could really implement it pretty easily into your already existing programs. Perfect. So I think we have two more questions. We're getting close to the end of the hour. So thank you all so much, and all the audience members, for all these fantastic questions that really helped drive the conversation forward. Our next question came in at the early onset of the program as well. So might be rehashing some things, but think that this will be a good way to close it around and tie a loop on some of these things. We had another question that came in asking, should I choose the security integrator / manufacturer to work with first, or my video monitoring method? Which would you all suggest people tackle first in that process?
Well, I'll start from my perspective. Look, the fortunate thing about the Netwatch solution is that we can work with existing systems providers that are already out there, integrators. We do, and if you don't know one, that's fine. We can certainly help provide it to you. But I think going back to the topic earlier, Brian, and you said it. I think everything in life starts. Starting early is really a good option. Monitoring is going to be a key portion of compliance beyond just the hardware. So maybe looking for economies of scale, trying to get everything you can through a single vendor would also help you, with that cost efficiency. So I would say, just as early as possible. But yeah, even if you already you're an existing operator, you have multi locations, a current security vendor, or even a monitoring station, there are options out there for you to work with.
Yeah, and I would, I was gonna say, I would honestly say it's great to have those conversations very early on. A lot of your security integrators will offer different solutions. So having that understanding of what you're looking for, what you like to see your day-to-day operations look like for your security systems, seeing what those different integrators can offer. That's something that could really differentiate your security plan from one to another. So it's that, and then implementing it, understanding what the price differences might be from one to another. So again, as early as possible.
Great. Start early. I think that's a key takeaway from today's program in general, but it is great to hear that there's no sort of chicken and the egg problem that you would find yourselves with. Being able to go backwards and get this implemented into an already existing plan is really great and cost effective, I think, for these business owners. Great. So I think we got one more question on the Q&A board, and I think it ties and wraps into our final thought section perfectly. So we had one more attendee ask, how would you go about getting in touch with a risk consultant after today's program?
Well, so our website is sapphirerisk.com. So pretty straightforward, but we do have a page where you can contact us, and we have all of our different services. So depending on where you're at in your business operations, we are more than happy to help. There we go.
Absolutely. And details are on the screen.
Yes.
So take a screen grab right here.
Yeah, fantastic. As always with these programs, we will send all of you all a PDF version of today's presentation slide deck so that you all can dive deep into this after the session. If you or any of your colleagues might have missed a portion of today's program, you can really dive deep into it after the program and then reach out directly with Justin or Haley to carry on today's conversation and learn more about how both Netwatch North America and Sapphire Risk Advisory Group can help solve your security solution needs. So I wanted to close today's program out by highlighting the upcoming events and turning it over to Justin and Haley to let us know a little bit more about the activities they have planned for this fall and winter, and leave the audience with a final thought from today's program.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, there's some listed here. Obviously, our website at netwatchusa.com will have all of our events, but the next major event that we will be at is MJ BizCon. So looking forward to meeting and networking with many of you there. I know Haley and Sapphire have a number of things coming up. They're very active out there, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll obviously be at MJ Biz as well. We don't do booths just because we're consultants. We don't have cool stuff to really look at, but we will be bouncing around, and feel free to reach out to us and we'll come meet you somewhere on the floor. We do have a few other events. We're really heavy in New Jersey and New York, so we'll have one of our Sapphire team members that will be at multiple events coming up. So just keep an eye out for it.
And if you stop by our booth and you want to talk to Haley, she may be there, or some of our other staff might be there, or we'll be able to help you connect with them on the floor.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like the Sapphire Risk Advisory Group team is going to be getting their steps in Vegas. So definitely be on the lookout for them throughout the few days of activities, and definitely make sure to stop by Netwatch North America's booth right on the expo floor to learn more and get a hands-on demonstration of their products and services. So with that, I just wanted to send a huge thank you to both you, Justin Wilmus, as well as Haley Glover, for presenting today's program. Let's give them a huge virtual round of applause from the audience pool. Post inside of the chat room your favorite takeaway from today's conversation. Raise your hand in the audience pool if you want to show some appreciation for all of their fantastic efforts. And then, like I said, be on the lookout to your email inbox for a PDF of today's presentation. And please don't hesitate to reach out to Justin and Haley directly following today's broadcast to learn more about their products and services and how they can help solve your security solution needs. All right. And with that, we're going to close out today's program by just highlighting that in case you missed it, we did just conclude NCIA's 10th annual Cannabis Industry Lobby Days this past week in Washington, D.C. I saw a number of you submit that you weren't currently a member of NCIA at the beginning of the program in our icebreaker poll. So please do follow this link to learn more about all the amazing advocacy efforts that our members made possible on your behalf in DC throughout last week, and learn more about how you can join in these efforts with our 11th annual Cannabis Industry Lobby Days coming this spring back in the Washington, D.C. area. If you are interested in supporting these efforts, we are offering a discount on sponsorship packages for the upcoming 11th annual Cannabis Industry Lobby Days over the next 2 weeks. So if you review this blog post, it sounds interesting and exciting and something that your team wants to get behind, please reach out to me following today's broadcast to learn more about how you can support those efforts. All right. And with that, thank you all so much for attending another NCIA Industry Essentials educational webinar. It feels really great to be back into the swing of things, engaging with our network in a live format after a short break from broadcast while we focused on our Cannabis Industry Lobby Days. So we sincerely hope that you'll continue your participation with all these interactive educational activities for the remainder of the fall and winter. You can head to NCIA's website following today's broadcast, secure your spot in all of those upcoming virtual activities, and make sure you're, in particular, that you are subscribed to our events newsletter that goes out every Monday afternoon, so that you can make the most out of your participation with these programs. Outside of that direct email, this will be the first spot that we will post a recording of today's session next Monday as well. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Brad. Really great to hear that was today's program was helpful. Huge thank you once again to the team that sponsored today's program, Netwatch North America, as well as Haley from Sapphire Risk Advisory Group for providing your expertise on today's program. We'll leave you all today with our end of event credit sequence, highlighting all of the member businesses that registered and participated in today's program. If you don't see your company listed here, don't be discouraged. That just means you need to head to thecannabisindustry.org/join following today's session to join the movement for a responsible and equitable cannabis industry. Enjoy, and we'll see you all hopefully again next week for another NCIA Industry Essentials educational webinar. Thank you all so much again. Have a great one, Justin and Haley, and we'll see you all next time.
Yep. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.